Hey everyone, welcome back to Bagel TCG. Today we're doing a deck tech for Boltyn, in particular a budget Boltyn deck tech. This deck is really strong right now. It got some decent support with the Nimblism package in high Cs, which I think pushed it over the top in terms of power level. It has good matchups into both Gravy Bones and I think a pretty close to maybe even a little favored matchup into Syndra. And I think it's definitely the best option on a budget. Maybe the strongest $100 deck we've ever had in Flesh and Blood. You can see it says it's only $110 for this budget version, and the fully upgraded version is 730. But I think there's only a few cards that really bump that price up and are pretty easy-ish to cut. So we'll go over the deck here, the budget version, and then talk about upgrades. I promise the deck is not that different with the budget version from the fully upgraded. And I genuinely think this budget version could win a national championships if played correctly. It is that strong for $110. Definitely the best budget deck maybe we've ever had at this price. So we're going to go over it now. If you want to test them out, there is, I believe, a Boltyn Armory deck that you can pick up for the $35-$40 to test them out, and then always upgrade it from there. That I think makes it a little more expensive overall, actually, to upgrade because just buying the singles you need from the Armory deck is cheaper, but it does let you try the deck out first, which is nice. So let's go over the deck. First, who is Boltyn? What does he do? He is a light warrior hero, so you can play warrior class cards and light talent cards. Uh, the normal 40 health and 4 intellect, and he has 2 hero abilities. First, if you charge this turn, which is a mechanic that Boltyn has, where you, as in a cost to a card, put a different card from your hand into your hero's soul, which is kind of a resource zone. If you've charged this turn, your attacks get +1 power while defended by an attack action card. So if you've already charged, your opponent basically gets punished by blocking with attack actions. Whenever they do it, it will give +1 to that attack. If they block with 2 attack actions on the same attack, it doesn't give it +2, it's just +1 total for the attack if it's blocked by any. And then his second ability synergizes that with that a bit. As an attack reaction, you can banish a card from your soul, and then target attack with power greater than its base gets go again. So if an attack has +1 from its ability or a boost from any other card in your deck, you can use this reaction to banish a card from your soul as the cost and give it go again. That's very powerful, and it's kind of the payoff for charging. Of course, getting that +1 when you charge is nice, but putting those cards into your soul is the main way you get go again to make bigger turns. Now we're playing quite a few charge cards. For example, we have Bolt of Courage. I think all of our charge cards cost 0. Basically, the whole deck costs 0. We want to play what's in Flesh and Blood usually termed red line. It's called that because the cards are mostly red that you're playing. There's a red line at the top, and you're not pitching at all, right? You have no blue cards, which are the traditional pitch cards. In Flesh and Blood, you're basically just trying to play out or block with your 4 cards and not pitch at all. This deck would almost never pitch in this deck at least. So how do these cards work? Bolt of Courage, 0 cost, 3 power, 3 defense. As an additional cost to play this, you may charge your hero's soul. So once again, that's taking a different card in your hand, one of your other 3 cards, and putting it right into your hero's soul. If you've charged this turn, this gets when this hits, draw a card, right? So you can replace that card you put into your hero's soul when this hits. So it gives it a nice on hit. Also, if they block with an attack, it then goes up to 4, which is nice because they have to block with then a second card or armor to stop the on hit. And you have some attack reactions and buffs that make it so you can get guaranteed go again here and are more likely to connect. We have plenty of charge cards. I'm not going to go over all of them. Some are as simple as Express Lightning. It's just 0 for 4 in charges. There's nothing else there. So it has 1 more power than Bolt of Courage, but no draw on hit. Engulfing Light, kind of similar, but goes into your soul, so it lets you charge extra. Beaming Bravado, if you charge a yellow card, it gets +1. So there is some yellow synergy in the deck, which is why we play a decent mix of reds and yellows, 36 reds and 24 yellows. We do have some cards like this that requires a yellow card being charged, or Light the Way also says when this hits, if a yellow card was charged this way, this gets go again. So there is some yellow synergy. Also Spirit of War, if a yellow card was charged this way. Whenever an attack action card hits this combat chain, create a courage token. So we have some yellow base synergy, but we also have a lot of powerful yellows to play anyways. So that is the charging part of the deck, and our equipment suite also supports this charging. So it centers a bit around this chest-pieced Soulbond Resolve. Um, this says when this defends, you may charge your hero soul. So that's already a way to charge there. It's kind of just going down a card, which seems bad. But the second part is really strong. The first time you would be dealt damage each turn. If you've charged this turn, prevent one of that damage. That's not only when this blocks. Obviously, if you block with this and charge, it's kind of blocking for one extra, which is nice. It basically makes that charged card block for one, which is obviously worse than blocking with it for three, right? Usually putting a card into your soul, having a card in your soul is worth at least one extra value, so it then makes it kind of two, but mostly it synergizes with your other two equipment pieces. So we have Helm of Halo's Grace. This says when this defends, you may charge your hero soul. If a yellow card is charged this way, draw a card. So this basically just gives you a free soul because you'll put a yellow card in and get a new card back off the top of your deck. So you don't go down any cards in hand, it just replaces it right away. And because you charged, it also gives you one extra prevention here from Soulbond Resolve. So this will block two, you'll charge your soul, get a new card, and then block the two plus one extra from Soulbond Resolve. It's important to note this is only the first time you would be dealt damage, so you need to do it on their first attack. If you already took damage first, so they hit you for 3 and then they're coming in with 4 after that, this effect is no longer active because you've already taken damage. So you have to do this on the first instance that you would have taken damage that turn. Important thing to note there. This does have some synergy with one other particular card in our deck, which is Banner of Gallantry. This has a Soul Flare ability, which means it gets something extra when it's charged. This says when this is charged to your hero's soul, create a Quicken token. That's a really nice token here that gives your first thing go again. So when you play an attack action or activate a weapon, destroy this and the attack gets go again. So a nice way to get goal again. And if you put this in with the headpiece, obviously you draw a new card. So not only are you going to block two and then prevent one here with the chest, you will also get a card in soul and get a free Quicken token. So I think when I see the Bannerays of Gallantry, that's one of the times I'm looking to use the headpiece the most. I really want to block with this when I see a Banneret of Gallantry and try to get that 3 value of blocking with the helm, plus the card in soul, plus the Quicken. Lets you set up for a really strong turn. Slightly weaker than the headpiece, but still strong, is the Warpath of Winged Grace. These block for 2 as well and have a similar effect. When this defends, you can charge your hero's soul. If it's a yellow card, you create a Quicken. So you don't get the card back is the main downside, right? I think drawing is much better, but you do get a Quicken, which has some value to it. If you have no other guaranteed ways to get going, go again that turn, that's still worth it. It still will block 3 total because of Soulbond Resolve. And it still lets you put a card into your soul. So in the end, you're still getting kind of 3 value from that yellow. One from the resolve trigger, one from it being in soul, and one from the quicken. And it blocks for 2. So it is nice to stack your soul. Obviously, you don't want to charge the Banner of Gallantry with that because then you'll just get 2 quickens and the quickens both destroy and kind of don't synergize with that. The best card to charge with this is probably Spirit of Irina. This is a really powerful card we'll go over in a bit, but that's a nice one to charge with it. Other than that, maybe you can look for like a yellow Nimblism, one of your yellow charge cards you don't need, maybe a Via the Vanguard if you can't use it that turn, or a Bolting Blade. So there's some other options to charge with it. It's just nice to have 2 block on your boots though. Our weapon, this is kind of the card that makes the deck tick in a way. Raiden Duskblade, this is one of the coolest weapons in the game because it's free to attack with. Nothing to attack with it at all, but it attacks for 0. So 0 cost to attack with, attacks for 0, but if you've charged this turn, it gets plus 3. So after you've charged, this comes in for 3 damage for no resources at all. It basically gets you that full card back, right? So if you, let's say, play Beaming Bravado, you charge a yellow card, so now you're coming in for 4 go again, right? After you use your ability on your soul. But now you've used 2 whole cards just for 4 damage, which is pretty bad. But because Raiden's free after that, you can attack with it for free for 3 damage, and now you've used 2 cards for 7 damage, which is much better. And if they block with any attack actions, it goes even higher on the damage. So 2 card 7 is a lot more reasonable than a 2 card 4. So the Raiden really puts in a lot of work making up the value of charging a card. Our arms, these are mostly here to block, but sometimes can help when you have extra cards to pitch. This says once per turn action, pay a resource. Your next sword attack this turn gets when this hits. Create a courage token, and they block 2 with temper, which is pretty nice. Yeah, the only time you're really using that is probably when you play Viva the Vanguard. This is the only card in our deck really that costs any resources. It costs 1. So if you're pitching a yellow for it, you'll have 1 floating. So you can also activate Iron Song Versus to start the turn off, which will give a nice extra 1 damage on hit basically to your weapon. So it's not nothing. It lets you get a value out of that extra resource, but generally you're just blocking with these for 3, and that's good enough for most equipment. So that's the equipment suite. You can see how it helps you charge quite easily. Um, in total, you can put up to 4 cards in your soul from the equipment, 1 from the headpiece, 1 from the legs, and 2 from the chest. Obviously, you want to start by blocking with the head and the legs so that you get all the extra value from the chest piece. And then you can, of course, block with the chest piece after that if you want to. And you can block with the arms whenever because they don't really have any charge synergy here. Now the deck, like I said, mostly charge cards. You're going to start basically every turn off if you can with a charge card. We've got 6 copies of Beaming Bravado, 6 copies of Bolt of Courage, 3 Engulfing Light, 3 Express Lightning, 3 Light the Way, 3 Spirit of War, then also technically 3 Via the Vanguard here, although you don't resolve this one as often. In terms of pumps, we do have the 3 Courageous Steel Hand. This is if you've charged this turn, target attack gets +3. So a nice way to give something go again by getting it that increased power, or push through an on hit like a draw card from Bolt of Courage. So a very nice card to have here. And then we have the Nimblism package. So we are playing the 3 red Nimblism. This just gives your next attack action card with cost 1 or less +3. So a nice +3. We do play 2 of the yellows as well. You're mostly charging these when you need to, but sometimes you just need the extra Nimblisms for the synergy, because we are playing Nimby as well. This is the new card from High Seas. It's just a 0 for 3, but when it attacks, you can search your deck for Nimblism, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So the main issue is finding go again on this if you want to play it in the turn. You can also end your turn on it, which is totally okay as well if you have an open arsenal slot, but this card can get 6 value by itself, attacking for 3, and also finding 3 free damage from a Nimblism from its ability. So that's really powerful. You can find ways to give it a go again through stuff like the Quicken tokens that we've talked about, different ways to get. And sometimes you can buff its power by playing a different Nimblism or a Courageous Steel Hand. Or you can just end the turn on it, like I said, and arsenal the Nimblism as well. So very powerful card. Definitely the biggest new buff to the deck. Ending with it to find the red Nimblism and then arsenaling it is really nice, because the next turn, then you have a guaranteed buff for your starting attack, like Bolt of Courage, which lets the whole turn really run smooth like butter after. So pretty powerful synergy there. We're even playing 3 Jack Be Quick. This is a nice synergy. When this attacks, you can banish a Nimblism from your graveyard. If you do, this gets +1 and go again. So it'll be 4 go again, which is really nice rate. And you just need to banish a Nimblism from your graveyard. We're playing 5, so you should hopefully always have one. It has a secondary effect that only really matters into Gravy Bones and Prism. But it says when this hits a hero, untap an ally they control, then steal it until end of turn. Sorry, until the end of this action phase. Basically, till the end of your turn. Basically lets you attack with their ally, which is really nice. It's a really relevant on hit into Prism with Angels. I suppose the Angel would die if this hits, but maybe they have multiple Angels. I guess it doesn't matter into Prism, actually. Yeah, I guess the Angels would always die. Anyways, it matters into Gravy Bones the most, who is the most relevant deck in the format, or one of the most relevant decks in the format is Gravy Bones, and it's a really real on hit to him. And then I suppose it could matter into like Levia or Vincent if they make their ally, but mostly it's for Gravy Bones. And it's a really real on hit to him, and to everyone else, it's a 0 for 4 go again, which is totally fine. Like 0 for 4 go again is a great rate, so we're happy to play it anyways, and it blocks for 3. Speaking of turn enders like Nimblism, we also have Snatch. This is just a premium generic card, 0 for 4, so it's hard to block, and when this hits, draw a card, so pretty powerful. No reason not to play Snatch in this deck. And then we also have Illuminate. a little bit of a weaker on hit. It says if this hits, put it into your hero's soul. 4 damage, so not quite as good as drawing a card, but it does block 3, which is nice. It is a light card, which helps with some synergies. So it's definitely worth the inclusion in the deck, even if it's not quite as good as Snatch. And then let's finish off with the yellows. So the card I haven't gotten to yet that is the best card in the deck by far is Lumina Ascension. So this is the Boltyn specialization that already gives you kind of a hint that it is meant to be super powerful. It says, until end of turn, weapons you control get +1. And when this hits, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a light card, put it into your hero's soul and gain 1 life. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. If you've charged this turn, you may attack an additional time with each weapon you control. Go again. It's a long card, but basically, it makes your Raiden get +1, so it'll attack for 4 instead of 3. And you can attack with it twice, so then you can attack for 8 total, 4 into 4. And if it hits, you get to potentially put the top card of your deck into your soul if it's a light card, and gain a life. So then it would be 4 damage plus a soul plus gaining a life. So almost 6 value just from that sword swing. And you're doing that twice. So 12 value from swinging your sword. And they stack, which is really powerful. So if you can play 2 Lumina Ascensions, you can swing 5 3 times, right? So now you're getting 15 damage. And if you somehow manage to find all 3, you can swing 6 4 times. So then you can swing 24 damage. So they stack exponentially. Really, 1 is usually fine, but if you can find 2, that's really powerful. You're rarely going to get all 3, but that's certainly something you can go for. And then we have some synergies with it because it's so powerful. We do have this legendary item called Spirit of Irina. This says if it would be put into your soul, instead put it into the arena. So it just goes straight into the arena. Usually you want to charge this, obviously, and not just play it out. And it says you may play Lumina Ascension as though it were an instant. What that means is since this has go again, if it's an instant, you actually go +1 action point. So playing Lumina Ascension as an instant with go again, now you have +1 action point, so you can attack with 2 things that turn without needing any go again on either. And it's an instant, so you can kind of surprise your opponent with it. So the most common way is you will attack your opponent with a charge card, give it go again, hopefully, through a different means. So we'll play Beaming Bravado, charge a yellow, banish a card from Soul to give it go again, and then we'll attack with Raiden for 3, right? Just 3. Nothing they need to do about it. So they'll probably just block for 3 or most likely say no blocks, and then surprise, Lumina Ascension as an instant. Now it gets the +1, it gets the on hit, it can attack an additional time, then you can banish a card from your soul to give it go again. You don't even need to actually banish a card from your soul to give it go again because you get the extra action point from playing Lumina. So you even save the card from soul, which is pretty nice. But if you want to do another attack after, like a snatch or something, you can still just banish a card and keep that extra action point. Really powerful, a bit of a surprise play, and definitely worth the inclusion of Spirit of Irina. And then the main way we're finding extra copies is with Beacon of Victory. So this says, as an additional cost to play it, banish X cards from your hero's soul. X cannot be 0. So you have to banish at least 1 card from your soul. Target attack gets +X. So if you banish 1 card from your soul, target attack gets +1. If you've charged this turn, search your deck for an action card with cost X or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So 90% of the time, you're going to find Lumina Ascension, right? So you're going to just play this for 1 extra damage, banish a card from your soul, and give the attack +1. That's nice to push through on hits, like the draw card or the putting it into your soul. It also can then make sure it has go again because it has increased power. And most importantly, you find Lumina Ascension to play your most powerful card. So very good, basically draws a card and gives something +1. So it replaces itself with whatever you find and gives something +1. You're really only losing the 1 card from your soul, which is totally fine for how powerful this is. You do sometimes find other cards. The most common other card I can sometimes find is Snatch. If you've maybe used all your Luminas, or if it doesn't feel like the right time for it, maybe if your opponent's blocked with all their cards already, you can get a Snatch, give something go again, whatever it is, even if it's just a Raiden, and then come in with a Snatch and get that guaranteed draw, which is really nice. The last 2 cards to mention are the Bolting Blade and the V of the Vanguard. This card is the most awkward in the deck because it costs 1, and we really don't want to pitch nothing else in the deck. we're pitching for realistically. I think basically everything else costs 0. Technically, Banner Ray of Gallantry costs 1, but you only ever want to charge this. You never ever want to play this out. Just block with it or charge it. So I don't really count that. Everything else costs 1 or costs 0. I mean, except V of the Vanguard and Bolting Blade. But they do synergize with each other. Most of the time, you're just going to be charging these or blocking 3 with them. But V of the Vanguard does let you set up some pretty big turns against slower decks. It says, as an additional cost to play this, you can charge your hero soul any number of times. Your attacks this combat chain get +1 power for each light card charged this way. Now, the main setup with this is arsenaling this, right? Waiting till you find a Bolting Blade in hand and hopefully 2 other light cards, because this lets you charge 2 different cards. So you'll pitch a card, play this, charge 2 cards, right? So this is hopefully an arsenal. So you'll charge 2 cards, any 2 light cards really, and then this will come in for 5, right? Because it gets +2 from itself. Then you can come in for 5 as well with your Raiden, because it'll get +2. So now it's coming in for 5. And Bolting Blade here is usually doing basically nothing because it costs 4, which is way too expensive for your deck. But it comes in for 7. But it says it costs 2 less for each time you've charged. So if you charge twice in a turn, which the only easy way to do that is with V of the Vanguard, this now costs 0. So now it's a 0 for 7, which is really insane. And it gets you most of that value back from charging 2 cards. So you can play V of the Vanguard for 5, then come in with Raiden for 5, and then come in with Bolting Blade for 9, because you've charged twice. And then you've pitched 1, charged 2, attacked with Bolting Blade, and came in with your weapon. So you get to come in with 19 damage, plus the Iron Song Versus on hit. So about 20 damage from the 5 cards, which is pretty strong. Makes it hard for your opponent to block, and you can even end with a Courage token, which is pretty nice if you swing with the Raiden last. Pretty good combo. It's also just yellow base that can be charged or blocked with, but if it lines up, sometimes it lines up. It's pretty nice. That's the main deck. We'll quickly go over the sideboard and then upgrades here. Sideboard, we have Celestial Cataclysm. This is a popper for Prism. It's also can be swapped in sometimes against aggro decks. It might be a little better than Bolting Blade, so I'll usually swap the Bolting Blades out for the Cataclysms against aggro decks. You're not going to be able to set up the V-turn basically ever, so this is a little better if you somehow end up with a bunch of soul from something like your equipment charging. We have some defense reactions with Sink Below and Saving Grace. These are used against aggro decks as well. You can swap stuff out like the V of the Vanguard. You can swap out the Bolting Blades. You can swap out some Jackby Quicks or some Courageous Steel Hands, or some Illuminates, for example. Quite a few things you can swap out for these defense reactions. And then Take It on the Chin is for versus Kano or Wizards. It lets you prevent 2 damage. Pretty nice against arcane decks where you don't really want to pitch into them. And then these 3 equipment are also for arcane decks. We've got Spell Void 2, Prevent 2. These are both really powerful into Kano. And then Arcane Barrier 1 into any decks that want to do arcane pings, just to have that as kind of insurance. That is the deck. Only $110. Like I said, really nice budget. It is based off this deck by Eric Keelback. He went 4-2 with it at Canadian Nationals. You can see it's $730. A lot of the price comes from this big upgrade, which is Fiendal Spring Tunic. It's a pretty great card to buy if you're getting into the game anyways, because it's by far the most commonly played equipment piece in the whole game. It is $144, but it's because it's legendary rarity, so it's not that easy to find. And it is, like I said, the most commonly played equipment in the game. Most decks play this. What it does is every 3 turns, you can get 1 free resource from it. That makes a lot of cards better. In particular, it makes V of the Vanguard better, because now you don't have to pitch for it. You can just play it off of Tunic resource, which lets you keep a whole extra card in hand instead of having to pitch, and lets you go a bit wider, which is really, really strong. It's kind of hard to express how good that is. And then the other card you get to play is Take Flight. This is a really good charge card because it gives Go Again to itself, but the issue is it costs 1 resource, and we really don't want to be pitching, so I cut it when I cut the Tunic. But those are, I mean, it's kind of the only things that Tunic makes better, to be honest. Those are big things. I'm not trying to downplay how good those are, but Tunic is only in the deck for Take Flight and V of the Vanguard. Otherwise, if it wasn't for those cards, you wouldn't play Tunic. The other upgrades we're playing Shelter from the Storm instead of Sink Below. This is better into Syndra, but basically worse into everything else. I personally actually like Sink Below more in the deck, so that's a pretty easy cut. Um, they're both fine. I think most people would agree that they're not going to make that much of a difference, but shelters are $98 each, and Sink Belows, which do basically the same thing but better, are $2 each. So you save about $300 right there cutting the shelter from the storms. And I promise you, into most matchups, the Sink Belows are better. They actually let you filter, they're pretty nice. This is just because Syndra is so common, and this is better into Syndra. So you'll lose a little bit of percentage into Syndra cutting this, but I think Sink Below is better into basically everything else. It's better into Azalea. It's better into the Assassin. Maybe it's actually a little worse into the Assassins, but it's better into a lot of stuff. So yeah, I think the Sink Below switch is totally fine. What other expensive cards are even in the deck? Oh, Enlightened Strike. Yeah, this is a pretty good generic attack. It's also a decent thing to buy if you're trying to get into the game. They're $32 each, about 33 each. Pretty nice generic attack. I don't think it's necessary for the deck either. I swapped out the Illuminates for them. Uh, Obviously, these are fine upgrades. If you want to get them, you'll also be playing these in a lot of Flesh and Blood decks because they're such a good generic staple, kind of like Tunic. So they're a fine buy if you want to start upgrading. I would start with Tunic first if you're going to upgrade, and then you could go to Enlightened Strike next. Um, Pretty nice card to upgrade to. I would basically never upgrade to these shelters unless you just happen to open them or have a lot of money and want to buy them. But it's really kind of a waste of $300 when you can buy the 3 Sink Belows for $6. But the Enlightened Strikes are pretty strong. They have a lot of synergy with the deck overall, so they're worth a buy. Um, Remembrance, this is only good against slower decks. I mean, you could buy Remembrance. I think it's like $5. And then Tenacities are also a little better into slower decks. But I don't love this card in the deck either. But it's a fine addition. I think they're both pretty cheap if you want to do some small upgrades. Tenacity is $9 each, and Remembrance is $3.50. So you could get those if you want to upgrade as well. Pretty minor. And then Kabuto is actually a pretty solid upgrade. I would probably start with Tunic, and then buy E-Strike, and then buy the Kabuto, but it's probably the cheaper upgrade. It's a headpiece that's $23, but it's really nice into certain matchups. It makes it so your opponent can't attack with weapons after you block with it. Pretty amazing against the Wrath of Retribution combo from Syndra. Really good into other warriors, so worth the $23 for sure, but I'm just trying to make the deck as budget as possible. Otherwise, as you can see, the deck is very similar. I mean, you cut half the price by cutting these really unnecessary Shelter from the Storms, which are $300 by themselves. That cuts the price down to $430. And then Tunic makes up a lot of the rest of that at $144. So then it goes all the way down to $300. You can cut the Enlightened Strikes for $100, and then you're down at $200, and then some small other changes. Oh, Banner Ray of Courage. I actually don't like Banner Ray of Courage very much, which is I didn't cut it just for price. I just cut it because I don't think it's very good in the deck. But that's another card that costs a little bit. I think it's $4 each, but you could upgrade to those as well. That's the deck tech. It's a very nice, I'd say, aggressive warrior. It has a nice armor fridge, so you can block really well with your armor, but your deck is mostly trying to not block. Most hands, you maybe will block with one card, but typically you're going to say no blocks at all and just throw a bunch of damage at your opponent. I would definitely classify Boltyn as an aggro deck. Um, you will learn that sometimes the best option is just to block with all 4 cards. For example, if you have no way to charge that hand, it might be better just to block with all 4 cards, or just block with 3 and then arsenal a card, because you really can't do much if you can't charge it at all. And then just be patient until you find your next hand, which is hopefully better. But generally, you're just throwing all 4 cards at your opponent. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you have any comments or questions about the deck, leave them below, and I will see you next time.